Well, hello, friends, and welcome to this week's Deep Dive. I'm Pastor Dave. This week, Nick is not with us. Nick Yother, who many of you may know this, we've shared this before on the podcast, but Nick's mom had a transplant surgery a couple of years back, and time to time she has to go back up to Vanderbilt in Nashville for a checkup, and so that's where Nick is. He's taking her up there, and we're praying for them and hoping that everything checks out. Have every reason to believe that it will. But I am flying solo this week, which is not my preference. I will tell you guys, I used to do a podcast back at my last church, and I did it solo, and it's so much easier when it's a conversation. So we'll see. I talk to myself a lot, so maybe we'll get through this. But I did want to, share some things with you this week. And so let's get started, and we'll see how this works. So, first of all, let me say that last week here at Hickory Flat was a very, very busy week. We just did so much, but it was a really good week. First of all, I need to mention and send out credit because so many people worked so hard on our trunk or treat, which is really one of the big things that we do each year. In the last couple of years, we've had around 1,500, we think, that have come through. It's been a really big event. It takes a lot of hands to make it happen. This year, as you all know, many of you know, last week was some real crummy weather, and Wednesday in particularly, the day of the trunk or treat, was really, really crummy weather. So we had to move it inside, which took a lot of effort and work. But it ended up being such a great event. And we predict we had around 1,100, 1,200 people who still came through on that cold and rainy night. And there were so many good things that happened there. My wife was mentioning to me that because there were so many people inside and the lines were moving kind of slow, that they had more of a chance to sort of talk with the people, some of our friends from the neighborhood that were here, and get to know them and invite them to church and to church activities. And so that was a good thing. But thanks to everyone who worked so hard to make that happen. And then October 31st rolled around, which is the last day of our pumpkin patch. And this year's pumpkin patch was the best ever. We sold about more than $15,000 in pumpkins. So lots of volunteers, a lot of effort went into that. Thank you all for your work on that, making it successful. If you don't know, we use the proceeds from that. It goes to something called the MacArthur's Fund, which helps kids go on mission trips and retreats and other things throughout the year, both in our children and our youth department. So it's pumpkins with a purpose, as somebody has said. I like that. And so that was very good. Then also this week, we had a pretty major women's event on Saturday night that my wife attended, and all reports was that was great. A lot of women came out for that, and so that was a good event. And then on Sunday was another full day here at Hickory Flat, beginning with a men's breakfast. A lot of crowd showed up for that and had a great time of fellowship. And then a good worship service. It was All Saints, which I'll get to in a minute. But we also had on Sunday, we hadn't had enough last week, we had our annual charge conference, which is an annual business meeting where our district superintendent comes. We had some other people from the district, our lay leader from the district, our district administrator were there, and about 50 church members came back for that meeting, and so we had a good time there, and I was very pleased. A lot to celebrate this year, and so thank you all for a very busy but very full but a very outstanding week we had at Hickory Flat. So without Nick here, I just don't want to give my sermon again, but I do want to talk a little bit about what happened with All Saints. I think most people know it's a day that we honor and remember those people people, particularly those church members that have passed away since last All Saints. There's a ceremony as part of the church service in which we call their names and ring a bell and remember them. Many times family members will come back for that, which was the case on Sunday. And so it was good to remember. But in the sermon, my main point, and I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I think it's something particularly on the heels of such a active week like we had last week. As a pastor, as a United Methodist pastor who moves around, I have learned over the years that churches have a certain personality, a certain DNA. There is sort of this embedded value system that each church has, and they're all a little different. Yeah, from the outside looking in, a lot of people might say, well, churches do a lot of the same things, and they do, but each church has their own particular DNA. And so as we remember the All Saints, I thought about our personality as a church, our values as a church, the things that are important to us. Is if we were describing ourselves to other people, what is our church like? What are the things that come to mind? One of those being that we're a very missional church. We're a church that responds and responds enthusiastically whenever there's a need. We have ongoing mission projects that we do throughout the year here, and they're always met with enthusiasm. Whenever there's a need, all we have to do is just mention it in the service or in an email, and the response comes in. So how did we get that way? And I mentioned a couple of the saints that have passed away in the past year, in particularly, as being part of the people that kind of established and started that personality for us. I mentioned Jim McNeil, Jim, who passed away last year. His wife Hortensia, who's still with us and was able to attend on Sunday. But those two headed up our Thanksgiving feeding for 27 years. For 27 years, they helped shaped that, and that sort of got in the water around here about caring for others. There were others as well that took part in that, but that is, I think that's part of how we got the way we are. I also had to mention Diane Nitschke. Diane Nitschke was just such a kind and loving and accepting person and did so much, but she was also extremely involved and particularly some of the first mission trips that were around here. She was a leader and facilitator in that, and that was always at the heart of who she was. And so you see the personalities of people like that and what they stood for and what they contributed to the church, and that has continued to this day. People have just continued to build on that legacy that they have left for us. Another thing that we are known for in the community is children's ministry. And we celebrated a saint, Fran Sutherland, who was here for many, many years, active church member, was also the preschool director, and helped establish, what, is, not just me saying it, but a lot of people in the community, people outside of our church will say, we have the finest preschool in Cherokee County. And she was a huge part of that in loving the children, loving the families, and helping shaping other leaders as well. And I mentioned that, like, our current children's pastor, who you all know, she's been on the podcast, Nicole Hall, was a preschool teacher under her. Our current preschool director, Stephanie Joy, was a preschool teacher under her, and they both learned from her and her example. And so that's part of how we got to be such a safe and nurturing place for children, was because of the saints like Fran Sutherland and others, of course. But there are other saints when just don't have time to mention all of them, but we stand on the legacy of those people, their legacy heart, that we continue to work and to shape. And so just thinking about how do we contribute to that as we continue on a church to build on that excellence and those core values that have guided us for so many years. And, I think we saw that alive and well last week in the things that I mentioned at the top of this program today. We continue to build on that. And I think we don't need to take that for granted. We need to be grateful for it. But we need to remember to lean into that. And so, that's probably enough about the sermon. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, you can watch it online. It's still available there. And you can also see the part where we remembered all the saints. We also remembered some family members. We had some people that lost dear and near family members last year, including a couple of our staff members. Nick Boker lost his grandmother. Connie Clements lost her sister, and so many others of you who may be listening have lost a loved one recently. And my condolences. Grief is a difficult thing to walk through, but no, that's part of what the church does, and I think that's part of what we do. Is we're there for one another as a church in the good times and the bad times, and the times when we're walking through something. And grief is definitely a path that we all have to walk at one time, but it's something that we shouldn't do alone. So I'm grateful that we have this community that we can be there for one another. Just to look ahead a little bit, wow, we're in November. It's here already. And so, I like what Nick said in the announcements. We're now entering the season of Christmas until Thanksgiving comes, and then we have Thanksgiving for that one day, and then it's Christmas again. But, I think we all need Christmas this year. And so, all the commercials are running, and we're getting ready for that. But Thanksgiving does come before that. And so in leading up to Thanksgiving, I have shaped a sermon series for 3 weeks leading up to that. It's called The Path to Gratitude, Path to Gratitude. I do think we are a grateful church. We are grateful Christian individuals, but we need to be mindful of that and ways that we can grow in our gratitude. And so we'll be looking for these 3 weeks at how we do that. How can we grow and be more grateful in all that we do, in the way that we treat others, the way that we respond to the goodness and the generosity that God has given to us, and to live into that gratefulness. So we start this week with the first series. Just to give you a little preview, we'll be looking at a very familiar passage about gratitude and thankfulness, and that is the story of the 10 lepers that Jesus healed. And then the next week we'll be looking at a passage from Paul's journeys, and a time that he was in prison. And sometimes we go through difficult things, but yet we can still maintain gratitude in that and begin to see how God is working and shaping in that. And then the Sunday before Thanksgiving will just be a great time of Thanksgiving here at Hickory Flat. And so that's where we're headed here in November, and then December will be here. And so I know we're all making preparations for all of that. And so this is going to be a shorter one today, but I did want to be able to keep in touch and continue the podcast each week. So thankful for you all. Thankful to be your pastor. It's an honor to serve and to be blessed by the membership here at Hickory Flat as we continue to grow with one another. So thank you for tuning in this week. If you want to reach out, as Nick always says, you can do that in the comments or by shooting an email to either one of us. We'd love to hear from you. But thank you for your support of the podcast, and we'll see you next week, and hopefully Nick will be back in that chair. God bless everybody.